Friends Rachel Green is a hilarious and highly relatable comedy heroine who was such a compelling character because we got to watch her grow so much over the course of the show's 10 seasons. But the reason she had so much room to grow is because she started out with some pretty wrong ideas about life. She spent the show's run learning and evolving, and often fumbling.
There's rock bottom, 50 feet of crap, then me.
But she always managed to get back up in the end with the help of her friends. So let's take a look back at what Rachel got wrong, how she overcame those negative mindsets, and how even if the show forced her to regress a bit at the end, not all hope is lost.
Isn't that just kick you in the crotch, spit on your neck fantastic?
Rachel begins the show with a pretty strongly held cool girl attitude. She's not a girl's girl and generally sees other women as competition.
That's okay. Girls tend not to like me.
In high school, she was the popular head cheerleader and by all accounts, generally not a terribly nice person.
Well, maybe that's because you spent 4 years ignoring me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's not so much you. You were fat. You had your own problems. But you, what a...
The way she treated people in high school continues to stay in their mind for years after graduation. She barely remembers these people and her poor treatment of them, but it really affected them on a deep level.
Will, I just want to say that I'm real sorry for whatever I did to you in high school.
Oh, it wasn't just me. We had a club.
Rachel can be quite judgmental of others, especially other women.
Here I am about to pop, and he's out picking up some shop girl at Sluts R Us.
While she was close friends with Monica when they were younger, she clearly on some level thought she was too cool to hang out with her. This is part of what led to them drifting apart as they went to separate colleges and started working their way through young adulthood. But once Rachel realizes that this cool girl life she secured for herself actually kinda sucks, she comes crawling back to Monica because deep down she knows how important that real friendship connection is.
I just didn't know where to go, and I know that you and I have kind of drifted apart, but you're the only person I knew who lived here in the city.
Who wasn't invited to the wedding?
Rachel is incredibly focused on looks and how she's perceived by others, and so she judges everyone else by that same metric as well.
People were looking at us like we were crazy. Why do you care? Because they're people. But people that you don't know and will never see again.
But over time, we can see how she begins to grow out of this mindset and realize that being cool doesn't actually matter and won't bring you happiness, and that she's much better off just being free and even a little weird. Because she was raised in a family where she was told to put her looks above everything else and strive for material things, she often has a hard time not centering herself. And she often doesn't always think through how her choices will affect others.
Oh, and my father. Oh, my God, this is horrible. I've been trying so hard not to be my mother. I did not see this coming.
Her self-centered nature is something she constantly has to fight against and is hard to outgrow because for so long it was the key to her success in life. Being pretty and getting attention from people, especially men, was all she felt like she needed for a long time. So it takes time for her to begin noticing this part of her personality and working to stop it. And sometimes this part of her just focuses on putting her wants and desires first, leads to some hilarious results.
We are dessert stealers. We are living outside of the law.
But other times it can mean she's quite rude to those closest to her. Sometimes it's more on the side of thoughtlessness, like when she decides she'll be moving in with Monica without asking Monica, or when she accidentally left her flat iron on and nearly burnt down Phoebe's apartment.
It looks like a curling iron.
I don't use a curling iron.
Well, someone does.
Hey, don't look at me. My hair's straight. Straight.
Could have been a hair straightener.
But other times it's actually kind of messed up, like when she hires Tag to be her assistant over the actually qualified person just because he's super hot, and then goes on to date him while she's his boss.
He's so pretty. I want to cry.
Her desire to be the center of attention and make sure she's always getting what she wants can make her a bad friend on occasion. She has a bad habit of stealing Monica's thunder, from announcing her pregnancy on the day of Monica and Chandler's wedding, to stealing Monica's baby name, to getting back with Ross at Monica and Chandler's engagement party.
Maybe this is selfish, and I'm sorry about it, but I was kind of hoping tonight could just be about that.
Oh, honey, but it is
No,
just
it's
about
not.
that.
No, now it's about you and Ross getting back together.
What?
See, yeah, you kind of stole my thunder.
It's been a struggle for their entire friendship, but thankfully Rachel does work to be a good friend and make sure that Monica gets her time to shine too. She might not always make the right decision on impulse, but she is willing to work to fix things when she messes up because she does value their friendship so much. She also gets to use her self-focus in a positive way when she decides to not let Ross bully her into putting her career aside for him. She worked so hard to start from scratch and build a life for herself, and it could have been easier to just give in and go back to her old ways and do what Ross wanted because he's the guy and he'll buy her things. But she likes the life she's been working toward, and she's proud of herself for doing it, and so she doesn't let him throw her off course.
My work, it's for me, you know? I'm out there on my own and I'm doing it. And it's scary, but I love it because it's mine.
Though then this circles back around in a more negative way when she decides to move to Paris with Emma without talking to him about it first. But maybe she just assumed since he was so willing to forget Ben existed, he'd be fine with Emma disappearing as well.
When's my daddy coming back?
52 minutes.
Rachel has a jealous streak that can lead her to be pretty terrible to other people when she feels like she's not getting her way.
I'm so happy and not at all jealous.
She grew up learning that it was important to be able to manipulate people around you into giving you whatever you want.
Jill? I'm sorry, Rachel. Oh, come on. You really think that's gonna work on me? I invented that.
And so, even into adulthood, she has carried with her the idea that she should always be able to come out on top, even if it takes being pretty shady to do it. We see this habit creep out a bit when she steals the date with Jean-Claude Van Damme from Monica after agreeing to talk to him for her, but thankfully, she did realize how not nice that was to do and gave up the date so Monica could go. But other times, Rachel isn't so willing to give up and let someone else win. She particularly has it out for any woman that ends up dating Ross. They were usually pretty miserable when they were actually together, but anytime they were apart and usually dating other people, that's when they'd decide they were truly meant to be. While Ross is the more obvious case of wanting what he can't have, having been pining after popular girl Rachel since high school, once they're together as adults, this habit comes out in her too. When they're broken up, she can't stand to see him dating anyone else. Even though most of his girlfriends are incredibly kind and even get along with the group, Rachel can't help but throw a wrench in things because of her jealousy. She even gets mad when others in the group try to be kind to these girlfriends, like when she gets mad at Monica for going shopping with Julie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did my back hurt your knife?
She's not above pulling out her old school mean girl tactics when she's feeling jealous either. When Ross takes an interest in free spirit Bonnie, Rachel goads her into shaving her head so that Ross won't be attracted to her anymore. Or when she decided last minute that she was going to fly to London to stop Ross's wedding and tell him about her feelings for him, only to not tell him at the last minute while still sending the wedding off the rails.
Hi, Ross. Take thee, Emily. Take thee, Rachel. Emily.
Initially, Rachel saw nabbing a rich guy and getting married as the end-all be-all goal of her life. But then, after ditching her wedding to Barry and taking on the real world with her new friends, she began to realize that there was a lot more to life.
Mom, I realize you and Daddy were upset when I didn't marry Barry and get the big house in the suburbs with all the security and everything, but God, this is just so much better for me.
But while she did recognize that that mindset didn't serve her happiness, it did take her a long time to really leave it behind. She ended up falling back into that same pattern with Ross, letting him and their relationship take precedence in her life in a destructive way.
Ross and Rachel. Rachel and Ross. That's been one heck of a seesaw, hasn't it?
She didn't let him ruin her job, at least not at first, but she did throw a lot of the other parts of her life off course for him, especially her other relationships, because she was stuck on the idea that he was the one. But it also, to some degree, just seems to be that he's the one that's always around, like a safety net she knows will be there if she gets cold feet or bored with some other guy. And we can see this take her in a different direction when she tries to date Joey, just because he's there. And even agreeing to marry him when he accidentally looked like he was proposing after she gave birth to Emma. Though to be fair to her there, she had literally just given birth, and so wasn't really in her right mind. In the end, this habit of falling back to the safe option of focusing her life on a guy creeps up once more as she gives up her dream job in Paris to stay with Ross, who will never stop being Ross.
We're done being stupid.
Okay. It's you and me, all right? This is it.
This is it. Unless we're on a break.
Rachel wasn't a perfect person, but she did grow and learn from her mistakes, even if that didn't always stop her from making new ones. But that's also what makes her relatable. In life, we often feel like for every step we take forward, we end up tumbling 2 back. She's a great example of how you can break free from the stereotypes that bind you and the negative ideals you were raised with, and choose to live your life for you.
I feel that if I can do this, you know, if I can actually do my own laundry, there isn't anything I can't do.
But she's also a cautionary tale of what can happen if you let those same issues start creeping back in over time. And to be fair to Rachel, a lot of her regression was more on the writers low-key flanderizing a lot of the characters in an attempt to keep the show's drama alive and try to recapture the magic from the earlier seasons by making these older versions act more like their younger selves they had to grow out of. But at the end of the day, just because she did go back to her old ways a bit and didn't seem to have fully learned from all of her mistakes doesn't mean that she'll be stuck forever. We watched Rachel try and fail and try again until she succeeded over and over again over the course of the show's 10 seasons, so there's no doubt that even after choosing to stay in New York with Ross, that she still would have had the drive to find a different path for her career while continuing to build the life she wanted for herself and her family. More than anything, the most important lesson we can learn from Rachel is that the key to life is that you just have to keep putting yourself out there and trying your best until you get things right.
I was spoiled, self-centered, and you guys really took care of me.
Yeah, Monica made us.
Well, whatever. I really appreciate.
Rachel Green, Monica Gellar, and Phoebe Buffay are all beautiful, but Friends singled out only one as the hot one. For a long time, there was a trend on screen where, within any group of female friends, regardless of what any of them looked like, one was always upheld as the hot friend, pretty much always because she was the main love object of the story. But this trope split off from other hot girl tropes for one key reason: her friendships. So where did the hot one trope even come from? And how did Rachel, with the help of Monica and Phoebe, change it for the better? And have we finally gotten rid of it altogether? Let's take a deeper look at the hot one trope. For a long time, a female friend group having a designated hot one was just a given. It was pretty much just the accepted setup in any film or TV show featuring multiple female characters.
We're just 2 little girls from Little Rock.
This attractiveness difference often fed into the idea that girls were never really friends. They were just hanging out, and often in competition with one another, until they got what really mattered: a man. Even among sisters, there's usually one who is noted as the beauty.
And since you were quite 5 times as pretty as the rest of us and have the sweetest disposition, I fear the task will fall on you to raise our fortunes.
And the male part of the equation is key because the entire concept of the hot one, of course, isn't based on some inherent truth about human beauty. It's based on what, or rather who, the men in a given story are interested in.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not hear a word that you just said, because I can kind of see your party hats right now.
The women themselves are all beautiful, but the story would always posit that one needed to be picked out of the bunch as special. And the main way Hollywood likes to show that a woman is special is by pointing out how hot she is.
Serena looked effing hot last night. There's something wrong with that level of perfection.
Even as society evolved, the attention of men was still placed at the center of many women's stories. The love of a guy was still seen as the thing women should be striving for. And so the woman that was the most desired by the principal men in the story got upheld as the hot one. Although, it being Hollywood, all of them had to be pretty to even be on screen to begin with. Being hot, and specifically the hottest one of a group, marks her out as something hard to get, and thus, in the framing of many stories, a good prize to be won by the man.
Serena, you're the most beautiful, amazing, alive person I've ever known.
As opposed to, say, a sweet and simple girl next door, who might be nice to have around, but isn't necessarily seen as a win. But of course, women have continually pushed back against this gross framing, and all of the negative connotations that come with it. While the hot girl is often set alone, unable to make women friends, or be seen as anything more by men, the hot friend is often allowed to exist as a more full character within the story. She does have friends, and she doesn't usually see them as competition or just a holdover until she gets into a relationship. She cherishes them and they her.
Jess is by far the best person that I know, so if you guys let anything happen to her, I'm gonna come here and crazy murder you.
And if anything, the hot one is often actively trying to avoid falling into the pitfalls of the hot girl trap. She knows that how she's perceived by others, especially men, changes how she's treated, and she doesn't like it. Her sense of self isn't exclusively tied up in male validation, but she also can't seem to escape the attention.
For a long time, I made a career from my looks, so I get it. I'm a pretty girl. But not in a from a certain angle way, in an obvious way. That's how men see me. I'm not a smart girl or an interesting girl. I'm a pretty girl.
Society might still try to pit the women in these stories against each other, but they push back because they value their friendships. But that doesn't mean that the seemingly effortless beauty of the hot one goes unnoticed.
So, that's how you look when you've just woken up? Yeah. Nothing in my life is fair.
And often, these kinds of stories will allow the friends that aren't the hot one to have their own hot girl moment, making it clear that the entire idea of hotness is all about perception more than anything else. Through its main trio of female friends, Friends explored this trope from all angles, and provides some interesting insight into the trope and why it finally got left behind. Early on, Friends slots its friends into pretty well-worn tropes. The control freak, the funny one, the weirdo, the nerd, the ladies' man, and the spoiled rich girl. All three of the women are clearly beautiful, but Rachel is singled out as the hot one by the story. Interestingly, Courtney Cox, who plays Monica, was initially asked to audition for Rachel. Jennifer Aniston was said to be more like Phoebe, and Lisa Kudrow most related to Rachel's character. And all three had played hot girls in various other things before landing their roles on the show, which makes it pretty clear that the whole hot one thing doesn't actually have anything to do with any specific look, but instead the way the story chooses to frame the characters. While Cox was beautiful, Monica's personality was uptight and controlling, something seen as decidedly not quote-unquote hot.
And remember, if I am harsh with you, it is only because you're doing it wrong.
Phoebe was weird, but also self-assured and sexually forward, so she did sometimes get hot moments, but they were usually played for laughs.
God, I love how sexy I am.
The show itself plays with this perception through its use of Phoebe's identical twin sister, Ursula.
Oh, well, what do you know? There goes my identical twin sister. Just walking along, looking like me.
While the two sisters look exactly the same, and in fact are since both are played by Kudrow herself, the show constantly points out that Ursula is the hot one.
Everyone always thought of her as the pretty one.
Through these two, the show was able to explore how being the hot one doesn't really have anything to do with looks, and is all about how you're perceived by those, namely men, around you.
They're twins. I don't care. Phoebe's Phoebe. Ursula's hot.
The show does also explore the male version of this trope, the ladies' man.
How you doing?
But we also see how, for men, hotness isn't really a major factor in desirability as far as on-screen narratives are concerned.
Oh no, two women love me. They're both gorgeous and sexy. My wallet's too small for my 50s, and my diamond shoes are too tight.
Monica was initially seen as the main character of the group, given that so much of the show takes place at her apartment, and she seems to have her life more together than the others. Rachel was initially framed less becomingly, as a spoiled and whiny rich girl. But as Rachel became more solidified as the show's main love interest, and thus the most desirable and hot one, she was moved to the forefront. While she did have other story arcs, like being out on her own for the first time and reconnecting with Monica, the main thrust of her story was her on-again, off-again relationship with Ross.
Because she's your lobster. Come on, you guys, it's a known fact that lobsters fall in love and mate for life. See? He's her lobster.
Not being the hot one gave Monica and Phoebe more freedom to focus on other things and explore other parts of their lives and interests. They definitely do date plenty, but their lives and story arcs don't necessarily revolve around their love lives in the way that Rachel's does.
I mean, here I am about to pop, and he's out picking up some shop girl at Sluts R Us.
Is that a real place? Are they hiring?
And through flashbacks, we see that even Rachel herself didn't always see herself as hot. She was insecure about her looks until she got a nose job. But it was this focus on her looks that also got her trapped in the idea of being the hot one for so long.
It's like all of my life, everyone has always told me, you're a shoe. And then today I just stopped and I said, what if I don't want to be a shoe? What if I want to be a purse? You know, or a hat?
Thankfully, over the course of the show, Rachel does get to start branching out and being more than just the desirable friend. She gains confidence in herself not through her love life, but through growing as a person. Getting a job that she enjoys and that she's good at allows her a new kind of agency to see herself as having value beyond just her physical appearance.
My work, it's for me, you know? I'm out there on my own and I'm doing it. And it's scary, but I love it because it's mine.
Importantly, the show never framed the women's relationship as competitive. They weren't all secretly battling over some guy. They were friends who were all there for each other no matter what. And as the show evolved away from the earlier framing of Rachel being the most appealing one, we got to see how all three of them were desirable in their own way. And critically, how that wasn't the main focus of their lives.
Look at you. You're this big executive. You are much more capable than you give yourself credit for.
Rachel's on-screen evolution was in many ways the beginning of the end for the hot one trope, as it had so long existed on screen. In the same way, Monica, Phoebe, and Rachel were all able to evolve out of their initial limiting tropes and become more full, complex characters, well-done narratives in general have evolved away from trying to trap female characters in any single box. Nowadays, the hot one framing has pretty much been left behind in favor of this more equal exploration of how everyone is desirable and interesting in their own way.
90% of life is confidence. The thing about confidence is no one knows if it's real or not.
A big part of this is thanks to the continued move away from seeing male attention as the end-all be-all for women, on screen and off.
When I'm telling my own story, for the first time in my life, I am truly happy.
It's also much more accepted that hot can mean many different things to different people. There's not one way to be hot, and so no singular hot friend. Female characters now are more interested in exploring their own sexualities under their own control, not sitting around hoping they're chosen out of a lineup by some dude, but instead going after whoever they want, or not if that's not their thing.
Are any of you in relationships?
Oh, no thank you. I didn't come to college to be tethered to some dude I dated in high school. Also, I never really dated anyone in high school, but I'm here. I'm super sex positive. In theory, more than in experience, and I am ready to smash some D's.
And the focus is much more on becoming the happiest, most capable version of yourself and building strong friendships. Hotness is all about perception. And now, we're finally controlling how we're seen by the world.
Rachel's sisters on Friends are unimpressive human beings, so what was it about Rachel that let her escape their spoiled, stunted adulthood?
Which sister is this? Is this the spoiled one or the one that bit her?
Rachel Green's character arc is iconic. She goes from a bratty, selfish trust fund baby to a successful working woman and great friend over the course of 9 seasons of Friends. But when we meet Rachel's sisters, Jill and Amy, we get a glimpse of the life she left behind, the woman she could have been if she hadn't made the choice to run out on her wedding in the pilot, and that picture is not good.
I try to help your daughter de-emphasize her flaws.
Here's our take on the Green sisters, what's really wrong with them, and how Rachel got free of her toxic family dynamic.
I'm gonna go get one of those job things.
Jill and Amy are impulsive, they're mean, and they're superficial.
He has a killer apartment. And it's on 5th.
They don't really seem to care about anyone or anything. They have very little work ethic, desire to contribute to society, or concept of outside of their upper middle class lifestyle.
Daddy cut me off. I said, I'm gonna hire a lawyer and I'm gonna sue you and take all your money and then I'm gonna cut you off.
Wow, what did he say?
He said he wouldn't pay for my lawyer.
They're fun to watch because they're so ridiculous, but you can't fall in love with them like we do with Rachel because they have no redemption, and they're never around for long enough to show true depth or development. Yet when we look closer, we see Jill and Amy both exhibit familiar behaviors. We see early season Rachel in both of them.
Jill?
I'm sorry, Rachel.
Oh, come on. You really think that's gonna work on me? I invented that.
Even Rachel herself recognizes that her sisters are a lot like she was.
Look, you know, when I first moved to this city, I was a lot like her. I was spoiled, self-centered.
So let's look at some of the direct comparisons between Rachel and her sisters. They all break girl code and don't care about sisterhood. Rachel got with Chandler, who Monica had a crush on when they were teens. And both Jill and Amy have been with Rachel's exes. Amy used to kiss Barry behind Rachel's back when they were still together.
How we used to make out all the time after you went to sleep.
While Jill went on a date with Ross.
God, Ross is on a date with your sister? How weird is that?
When Rachel intervenes, asking Ross to not date her sister, Jill flips out in typical spoiled baby style because she doesn't want anything to be off limits.
This is about you being a brat, wanting what you can't have.
Can't have? Excuse me, the only thing I can't have is dairy.
Later on, when Ross and Rachel have baby Emma, Amy can't get her niece's name right.
She keeps calling her Ella.
And goes on to get Emma's ears pierced, insulting Rachel as she goes.
At least now people will know she's a girl.
Another thing the sisters have in common is that they feel it's their right to spend excessively. And they're pretty addicted to extravagant purchases.
Jill, how did you pay for all this? I thought your dad took away your credit card.
Oh, please, I memorized those numbers when I was 15.
When Rachel first joins the group, she finds it really difficult to stop spending on her credit card.
How'd you pay for them? Credit card. And who pays for that?
She doesn't really understand that the money she spends on her credit card comes from somewhere, and that somewhere is her dad. Likewise, when Jill shows up to Monica and Rachel's apartment, it's because her dad has finally cut her off after one epic splurge too far.
Okay, I bought a boat.
You bought a boat?
And finally, a key thing that the sisters share is that they all get to their mid-20s without ever having a job. Rachel gets her first ever job when she's about 24, and Jill is later than that.
You're gonna get a job. You're gonna get an apartment.
Meanwhile, Amy has totally harebrained schemes of making money, which belies the fact that she's never actually had to worry about it.
How's the baby styling business going?
Not that great. It's almost as if people don't want to hear that their babies are ugly.
Ultimately, the Green Girls have no concept of how to take care of themselves or what things are worth because they're all being bankrolled. So while Rachel, Jill, and Amy all have their unattractive habits, that's not necessarily their fault to begin with. There is a villain, but it's not one of the sisters. Enter the true villain, Dr. Green. The Green sisters' father, Leonard Green, has enabled them to become selfish and spoiled, and yet when they do exactly what he's taught them to do, he punishes them all for it. So whichever way they choose to go, he has total control.
He told me to come here and learn about the value of money from the one daughter he's actually proud of.
We're shown time and again that the model he gives his kids is one of providing material wealth and comfort to his family, but combining that with a kind of meanness. He gives them a luxurious lifestyle and every material thing they need, but only shows them tough love. This is embodied well in Rachel's memories of sailing. Owning a boat is a privilege only available to the very elite. Yet the way Dr. Green apparently talked to his kids during sailing made it a painful experience.
What, you can't quit?
Why not?
Because you're not finished yet and I won't have it. Greens do not quit.
Oh, God, Joey. Oh, I'm my father.
Rachel's dad has a total disregard for anyone's feelings.
Why would you bring me sewage? Is that a hard question? Are you an idiot? Is that why you're a waiter?
We can see this in how despite being incredibly wealthy, he is noticeably cheap. For example, he'll go out to dinner and order the lobster but mistreat the server and fail to leave an appropriate tip.
Uh-oh. I think your dad must have added wrong. He only tipped like 4%.
Yeah. That's Daddy.
These are behaviors of a man who knows he's high on the food chain and abuses his power over those lower down. When it comes to the women in his life, his 3 daughters and his wife, he's engineered a situation where they depend on him entirely. By making sure they rely on him for everything and withholding emotional validation so they're always craving his approval, he has infantilized them to the point that they have no real power of their own. That's why they're petty and unkind. They have no control over anything real. So they find solace in objects and shopping rather than in their relationships. The general pattern is that they stay being bankrolled by daddy until they get married, which prevents them from learning to develop true agency, self-care skills, or a sense of an independent self. And even if they break away, he'll still try to exert control, like over Rachel and her relationship with Ross.
How do you expect me to stay calm? This is unacceptable, Rachel. And I want to know why. Is it because that punk Ross won't marry you?
And because by his own design his daughters are superficial, he knows what makes them tick and he can use it to control them. Like in this scene when Rachel tells him she's pregnant and he bullies her into saying she's getting married to Ross. Phoebe counsels her through it, telling her she has to tell him the truth, but even though Rachel has become a self-sufficient, confident working woman, she still reverts to being like putty in his hands.
All right, here he comes. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna tell him I'm gonna be strong.
I think I may be able to book the plaza on short notice.
Plaza? Oh, Joey!
All this is why it's so crucial that Rachel does develop her independence instead of settling down too quickly with Ross. She's undoing her conditioning as a daddy's girl who's desperate for a dictatorial man's approval.
Did you hear that? My dad's proud of me.
We see these dynamics most fully realized in the girl's mom, Sandra, someone who married for money and didn't have to build a life for herself.
Now, have you picked your nanny yet? Now, I don't want you to just use your housekeeper because it'll just split her focus.
Sandra herself admits that she envies Rachel's independence as a woman making her own way.
You didn't marry your Barry, honey, but I married mine.
Sandra and Leonard eventually get divorced, and we hear that one of the causes is that Leonard never took much interest in his wife, but was far more absorbed in his boat.
And you work at a marriage, but all he cares about is his stupid boat.
You work and you work and you work on a boat.
So the green women are made to feel their lives revolve around winning the love of a man who shows affection only through money and doesn't truly bother to engage with their deeper selves. The materialism and status obsession of the Green family's culture points to a social problem that's bigger than Leonard. When women are raised to think their job is to immediately marry a man who'll provide, and when men or women are conditioned to prize wealth and status above all, the result is emotional stuntedness and inability to connect. While Rachel diverts from her mom's path, her sisters are headed in Sandra's same direction. That's why Rachel's arc is so rewarding and why her sisters are so interesting to us. Because they give us a glimpse of what might have been if she just married Barry instead of running away to find a new life in the city. We see this what might have been arc fleshed out in the fantasy episodes where Rachel is a bored housewife in a loveless marriage. This version of Rachel never challenged herself and opted instead for the financial security of relying on a man who doesn't respect her. As a result, she's realized a lot less of her potential, and she's a lot more like Jill and Amy. It's a warning to us all that choosing what feels safe over what feels right doesn't pay off on a human level, because it's crucial to push ourselves and take risks in order to develop into our best selves. Rachel's family are cartoonish in their villainy. They're hilarious to watch because they're so absurd.
I throw myself at you and you say no? How gay are you?
Yet, even though Amy and Jill are heightened versions of the mean, vapid sisters we might meet in real life, they reflect a truth we face all the time, that spoiled kids turn into spoiled adults. Actually, what makes Rachel's arc so appealing is how unusual it is. Most rich, bratty kids don't leave the safety of their trust-funded futures to try and make it on their own. In that sense, despite their absurdities, her sisters Amy and Jill are actually realistic. So how does Rachel make it on her own? The real answer, according to the show, is because of her friends.
Welcome to the real world. It sucks. You're gonna love it.
Right from the very beginning, when she bursts back into Monica's life without having seen her for years, her group of friends take care of her in a way that her family never has. So Rachel understands how powerful a network of people looking out for you can be. And that's why she offers that to her sisters when they show up at her house, testing the water of going out on their own. It's important to pay it forward.
I don't think I would be the person that I am today if it wasn't for you guys. So, I want to help Amy. Well, you guys helped me.
The Big Bang Theory's Penny and friends Rachel Green are two of the most popular characters on two of the biggest sitcoms of all time. Though they share some surface-level attributes, one of their most surprising similarities is actually the way that their stories treated their growth, and unfortunately, their endings. Both characters worked hard to overcome the stereotypes they were initially set up with. But in the final moments, their shows decided to walk a lot of those decisions back to keep them on more traditional paths. They're certainly not the only characters to get hit with this kind of backsliding, but they are two major examples that perfectly illustrate the issue. So let's take a closer look at how both of these characters found their own ways out of the sitcom ditzy hot blonde box, why their stories of growth were so important to their shows as a whole, why their shows decided to throw wrenches in their plans at the last second, and what it all means. Friends aired through the late 90s and early 2000s, and a few years after it went off the air, The Big Bang Theory hit the scene. Though they might seem quite different at first, one, the story of a group of rather regular friends just trying to get by in New York City.
I feel that if I can do this, if I can actually do my own laundry, there isn't anything I can't do.
The other following a group of hyper-intelligent geeks in Pasadena, California.
Sheldon, you're wrong. Wolverine was not born with bone claws.
Howard, you know me to be a very smart man. Don't you think if I were wrong, I'd know it?
But, both being sitcoms, they share many key foundational elements, particularly a reliance on known tropes. Sitcoms love to use well-known tropes and stereotypes to make the characters and relationships generally simple and easy to understand. They want anyone who might happen to come across any episode for the first time to pretty quickly be able to figure everything out and not feel lost.
I just didn't know where to go, and I know that you and I have kind of drifted apart, but you're the only person I knew who lived here in the city.
Who wasn't invited to the wedding?
This is what makes them such effective, easy viewing. But this reliance on already established tropes can also mean that some characters can get put into some stereotypical boxes that can be difficult to climb out of.
All of my life, everyone has always told me, you're a shoe. What if I don't want to be a shoe? What if I want to be a purse? You know, or a hat?
Both Penny and Rachel are the new girls in their respective groups. They're both seen as ditzy by the others, though for different reasons. Penny because she's just a normal person and not a super genius like the others.
I suppose if someone could teach sign language to Coco the gorilla, I could teach you some rudimentary physics.
Great! It's a little insulting, but great!
Rachel because she's a spoiled rich girl having to figure out life on her own for the very first time.
Everyone I know is either getting married or getting pregnant or getting promoted, and I'm getting coffee. And it's not even for me.
While sitcoms love ditzes of all types.
No, I don't wash the towel. The towel washes me. Who washes a towel?
You never wash.
You wash your towel?
Thanks to that desire to keep in line with well-trod sitcom shorthand, that attribute has often been given to blondes. Especially during the late 90s and 2000s era, where being blonde was very much associated with being dumb and shallow, and using your looks to get what you want.
Well, some people think the sexiest organ is the brain.
No one ever bought me drinks at a bar because my brain just popped out of my shirt.
While this dumb blonde persona was one that had long been put on by performers to appeal to men,
I can be smart when it's important, but most men don't like it.
on sitcoms, especially by this era, instead these women were often, at least initially, portrayed as just actually not being very bright. Much of the humor around Rachel to begin with was laughing at her and her inability to understand basic parts of adulthood and self-sufficiency. Penny was initially created just to be a side character that was the butt of the guy's jokes.
4 years I lived with him. 4 years. That's like as long as high school.
It took you 4 years to get through high school.
This setup made it more difficult for both women to find their footing within these friend groups, especially for Penny, since at least Rachel already had an existing, if strained, relationship with some members of her new friend group. But thankfully, in both cases, the writers began to see the true potential in these characters, and to appreciate the comedic abilities of their actresses. And so they began to be fleshed out into more multifaceted, interesting people.
We are dessert stealers. We are living outside of the law.
While growing out of ditzier or more materialistic attitudes over time can be seen as a useful arc for younger characters, older characters who are given those attributes often find they have a much more difficult time moving out of those stereotypes. There's an idea that how you behave as an adult is more set in stone. And so if one still has those attributes by the time we meet them in adulthood, then that's just the way they are.
I felt like such an idiot. I mean, it's all my fault. And you know why? Because I make very bad decisions.
And even when shows do give these characters the opportunity to grow out of those behaviors, it can often come across as a bit 2 steps forward, 4 steps back, as the writers continue to undo that growth at random when it's more convenient for a joke. On the one hand, this of course makes sense. Sitcoms are about comedy after all, so tweaking situations or characters a bit to get a laugh is par for the course.
I have got to learn how to spell Hofstadter. I know there's a D in there, but it keeps moving every time I try and write it.
But on the other hand, it can cause some problems when it starts to feel like a show doesn't want to let a character really grow in a permanent way. With characters who have been designated the hot one by their shows, this kind of backtracking can begin to feel a little nefarious, as if there's a worry that these women having too much agency or smarts will make them less hot. As we talked about in our video on the hot one trope, being the hot one doesn't actually have much to do with looks, but instead with how one is framed within the larger narrative. And we can see this in both shows by taking a look at the other blondes, Phoebe and Bernadette. Both are very blonde and very beautiful, but they're also very opinionated and determined.
It was like a whole other universe. If I wanted to, I could wipe it out with my thumb like a guy.
And so, even though all of these characters are equally beautiful, it's the ones that are seen as more focused on male attention that are framed as hot. This then affects the entirety of their growth journeys, and the degree to which they're allowed to change. In Rachel's case, the building up and knocking down of her growth does actually feel pretty realistic a lot of the time. Even though she is continually working on herself and trying to become a better person, that spoiled daddy's girl does creep back up to the surface from time to time.
Oh, I'm my father. Oh my God, this is horrible. I've been trying so hard not to be my mother. I did not see this coming.
But overall, being out in the real world and having to figure out how to make her own way is good for her. She soon comes to realize how freeing and confidence-building it is to be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
And Mom, I realize you and Daddy were upset when I didn't marry Barry and get the big house in the suburbs with all the security and everything, but God, this is just so much better for me, you know?
She's by no means a perfect person, but she does spend most of the show really trying to change herself and her life for the better. One way we see this play out is through her career. When we first meet her, she's never worked a day in her life and is miserable about the prospect of having to get a regular job. And for a while, she does hate it.
Who's FICA? Why is he getting all my money?
But then she comes to appreciate having true control over her own money and her own life. And then she realizes that she doesn't have to give up her interests. In fact, she can use her love of fashion to create an entire career.
My work, it's for me, you know? I'm out there on my own and I'm doing it. And it's scary, but I love it because it's mine.
Penny might not have the book smarts of her friends, but she does possess something very important: people skills.
How do you know these things?
I go outside and I talk to people.
As she was written to be a more fully drawn character, this attribute became key to Penny's integration into the group and her own growth. Penny's empathy allows her to connect with these new friends in deep ways, and also help them understand more about the world around them. And while they don't initially value this, over time they do all come to appreciate what Penny brings to the table.
Do you want to stop? I know you have trouble with eye contact.
Plus, it's easier around people that I'm comfortable with.
Oh, sweetie, I'm comfortable around you too.
Penny excels in other aspects of her life too. After letting go of her dream of becoming a famous actress, she comes to find that her people skills and acting ability make her a really great sales rep.
Well, I'm excited that you found this new job where you're making decent money.
Decent? I make twice what you make.
Wait, twice?
Another avenue of growth for both characters comes in their relationships. For both Rachel and Penny, deep friendship becomes a major animating force in their lives. They end up forming incredibly strong and resilient relationships with people they never would have imagined they would ever be friends with in a million years.
I can always make you a chai T3PO.
Oh, I get it, like C3PO. What happened to me?
They're able to use their own special skills to help improve the lives of their friends.
We're gonna have to go with an oldie but goodie, making a scene.
I don't think I'd be good at that.
Yeah, that's why you're lucky to have me. Back in Omaha, there are 2 different restaurants I'm not allowed into.
And they very much appreciate that these relationships are reciprocal. Their friends also help them out and keep them going.
You guys really took care of me.
Yeah, Monica made us.
Whatever, I really appreciate it, because I don't think I would be the person that I am today if it wasn't for you guys.
We can also see growth in their romantic relationships as well, kind of. Penny began the show with commitment issues and often found herself getting into relationships with guys who didn't seem to really value her. We meet Rachel when she's literally running away from her own wedding. Both have a variety of relationships over the course of the show, but are overall set up as the endgame match for one of the main male characters.
See? He's her lobster.
Their relationships run into similar issues: fear of commitment, the nerdy guy's feeling insecure about dating a hot girl and seeing himself as above her for being book smart, etc. And both get stuck on the long-running show staple roller coaster of on-again, off-again relationship problems to keep the drama alive. As both shows neared their ends, it seemed that they were setting up both Rachel and Penny to finally get to have the lives they had worked so hard to build. But then, after seasons of growth and these characters being quite clear about what they did and did not want out of their lives, both shows wait until the last moment to shove these characters back into more traditional endings. Rachel was on her way to Paris to take on a dream job at Louis Vuitton, only to give it up at the last second for Ross.
Did you get off the plane? Did you get off the plane?
I got off the plane.
Penny, who had been very explicit about not wanting children,
What if we didn't have kids?
Ever?
I mean, our life is so great. Why would we want to change that?
finds out that she's pregnant as her final storyline. Neither of these plot points are particularly out of this world. People changing their minds about jobs or accidentally becoming pregnant isn't all that rare in everyday life. The problem lies in the fact that these storylines aren't given any time to feel fleshed out or lived in at all, so that they could feel like real decisions that the characters actually wanted to make. Instead, it feels like at the very last second, the show worried about letting these characters be too free or have too much agency yet again, and so decided to push them back into that box one last time.
We're done being stupid.
Okay. It's you and me, all right? This is it.
This is it. Unless we're on a break.
Similar to Robin's final arc on How I Met Your Mother, here it feels like the focus was more on making sure that the male love interests got their happy endings at the expense of Penny and Rachel's own lives and desires. The silver lining of all of this is that, regardless of how their arcs might have been derailed in their final episodes, we still have their entire stories up to that point to enjoy. And we can learn from them as we continue to go forward and create new characters, avoiding the easy shorthands of played-out tropes and shoehorned-in endings, and instead writing something that feels much more real and free, just like Penny and Rachel themselves.
And that, my friend, is what they call closure.
That's the take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.